Everything we know, from people and ants to stars and galaxies to quarks and atoms, the entire universe, might just be a simulation running inside a supercomputer inside an even bigger universe. Ancient philosophers said that the universe is a dream that we're waiting to wake up from. In this dream world of the imagination, anything is possible. All cultural items, from the dreams of our rodent-like ancestors, to books, to television shows, are merely permutations of the reality we think we live in. Today's age of computers and video games places simulations at the center of our cultural consciousness. A select group of us perform simulations for fun and profit, and we call them games, role-playing and otherwise. We live to run simulations. Join us on the Simulationist podcast as we explore our culture of simulations.
Okay, hello everybody. Welcome back to the Simulationist podcast. This is the 159th iteration of the show, recorded on the 20th of September 2015.
Happy post-Talk Like a Pirate Day.
Arr.
Arr.
My name is Josh Levin, and you are...
The Salty Sailor Ryan Kirkby.
The Shiver Me Timbers.
That's right. I only remembered that it was Talk Like a Pirate Day 15 minutes before I was leaving work yesterday. So I was like, it could have been the most glorious of days.
Indeed.
I could have had so much fun, but oh well. I came back here and I talked like a pirate with my daughter, and she loves talking like a pirate.
Yeah, she gets it.
Yeah, she's just like, oh, I'm a pirate. Shiver me timbers, shiver me timbers. It was pretty cute. She's a little cute beard.
Yeah. Although that's only just one way that pirates would have talked, because as we know, that accent was popularized in Treasure Island by some actor whose name I forget, but
what's the thing though is that they were horrible people by and large. Desperate people in horrible situations doing horrible things.
Yeah, they could have been. Yeah.
So, if we're going to be Talk Like a Pirate Day, at least let's be goofy about it instead. Let's reduce their fear factor through the power of humiliation. So that's my theory, at least.
Okay. Yeah. They deserve it. They deserve to be made a popular caricature.
Well, have the power of the fear that they instilled lost through the derisive power of laughter.
All right.
Well, figure this way. Hogan's Heroes was set 20 years after World War II, and yet they portrayed the Nazis as bumbling incompetents, by and large.
Mm-hmm.
There were still people that had spent time in the concentration camps watching these TV shows.
Yeah.
And if you're going to be able to have a successful comedy, based around the goofiness of Nazis, a mere 2 decades or so after the Nazis did all their horrific things, I think we can definitely make pirates goofy.
All right. Yeah, I'm on board.
Arr, that be the spirit.
I'm on board.
Arr.
I be setting sail on the mainsail.
Although, in other news, today, this is truth sort of news, so it's not fiction, but I'll get into the fiction in a second.
Okay.
The Greek government, election results are in for the 3rd time this year. Same party that got the majority last time got in, but only as a minority, so now they got to work together, which I'm always in support of.
You like minorities?
I like minority governments because that way they have to play nice with other people in order to get things passed.
Okay, yeah.
But it looks like the only way Greece is going to be even hopefully turning a profit is if they wind up making that deal with the Egyptian billionaire to buy an island.
So they're going to sell one of their islands?
To an Egyptian billionaire who wants to provide a new home for Syrian refugees.
Okay.
But here's my thing.
That's interesting. Yeah, start all over, start brand new with a guy with a lot of money and a bunch of people.
You've got the guy with the financial resources, and then you've got a lot of people that want to start new and fresh and have really no desire for war. They have a very first-hand, personal account of exactly how horrible wars are. So I think that's a very good founding of a new spot. But if the Greek government was smart, and I'm not going to say they are, because given how things have been going the last, we'll say, just be generous and just say last decade, they haven't seemed to be very smart at all. But if they were smart, instead of selling the island to the billionaire, what they should preferably do is lease it for 100 years. the same way, that little port city happened Hong Kong. Because look how well Hong Kong did with a 100-year lease. And just a nice little, this place is a little different. Let's shake things up and really let it go. So I'm thinking, if they lease it 100 years from now, Syrian refugees become, the next, Hong Kong elite sort of thing. The power brokers of the Mediterranean.
I see. Okay. Well, that's a very nice dream.
It's a fiction. I hope it becomes reality.
I'm all for letting people have their shot at it. So yeah, I'd say go for it if I had any say in the matter.
But here's the thing: as we've seen, war does a bit of a horrible tally on the human psyche. So it is a very also reasonable future, although still fiction at this point. Very reasonable fiction that things don't really progress much at all. And it winds up becoming just like a nation, state, country, colony, whatever you're going to call it, that's nothing but a single ghetto. It's just a rundown place ruled by broken people.
I suppose. I mean, there's always that risk.
It doesn't take a lot to really demoralize a person. Haiti is a good example. The earthquake that ripped through there a little ways back, there's still people living in the camps. They just, as a society, they've just kind of given up, and to some degree, they're not as let's clear off the roads, get everyone together, get some gloves on, we're moving all these rocks out. They just kind of broke their will when the earth shook like that, and it was like the final straw. And then you've got places, like the war-torn areas, like Bosnia and all that, which is not too far away from Greece. And all that area. And the people there have a bit of a hard psyche of trying to see a brand new day on the horizon. I think the island thing might do a little better, though, because it's like, here's a new land for you. It's a new day. It's completely fresh. Start fresh. That said, I think if things do go through, that Egyptian billionaire would be very smart for spending some money on psychologists to help make sure everyone is able to get over the trauma of war and help start that brand new day.
I see.
He could spend his money a lot worse.
Yeah. Well, it does. The one example of a sort of a relatively new state that has had some success, I mean, not 100% success, but I'm thinking of like the state of Israel, which was formed in modern times and was basically like...
That was a very
built...
unstable one because it was a populated area.
It was populated, but it was not as heavily populated as it is now. It was heavily, it became much more urbanized in the last 60
the big
years.
Change,
70?
the difference between that is that you did have all those people that wound up getting kicked out, and now you've got 6 million people, in other nations neighboring Israel.
Exactly. These are the kinds of things that you have to, if you say, we're going to start this new state. Well, this island that we're talking about, does nobody live there?
To the best of my knowledge, the island he wants is uninhabited.
Okay, so there's
I don't know if that's the island he's going to get. Because, negotiations, right? That's, you always start with, this is the island I want most. But, negotiations happen. He's like, I got a couple islands I got on my list, and it's like, they're not bad islands. If you think that one's not good, you don't want to give that one up. I got a few other ideas. I'll pitch by you. He is a billionaire, so it doesn't mean he's a fool by any means. He can't just picture, it's got to be this one island or nothing. He's got another couple of islands in his mind, I'm willing to bet.
Okay, but what I'm saying about Israel is, there's a problem of displacing people who already live there, and the problem of building on places where you're technically not allowed to build. But what they have done is they've created these rather impressive, neighborhoods, entire cities, where there wasn't one before, or there was just a small village or something. So they've basically done some massive construction and created sort of a functioning
in that regard,
economy.
Yes, they're very good in that regard.
A society and basically, a country. Like they've created a country where there kind of really wasn't one before.
And here's the big thing on this island thing that even beats Israel, is Israel got founded around a bunch of people that did not like people of, the Jewish faith. And so that became a huge issue. It's like, you moved into the wrong neighborhood, buddy, and then you got your 6-day war thing. And all sorts of horrible stuff happens there. The Syrian refugees start living on this island. Who are their neighbors?
If you're,
Three
yeah, I guess
people
if
hate
you're an island.
Syrians? Yeah, you know, so it's like, so you have that much better going for you. It's like what are you going to do? Like cheese off Italy?
I don't know. Well, I just thought of like Cyprus is not far from there, and the problem with Cyprus is that half the island is Greek speaking and the other half is Turkish speaking. So you have that problem. But I guess if you were all if they're all Syrian refugees, they might all speak Syrian, I suppose. Or
well, that's the thing is,
Arabic?
if there's sub-dialects going on that I haven't been told of, I imagine the whole melting pot scenario is gonna mellow things out after a little while.
Yeah, you would hope. I don't know.
Well, I like to imagine people are rational, despite the overwhelming evidence to the contrary.
But I was going to make one more point, Ruth, with regard to Israel, though, and that is the fact that it basically a lot of people around the world, especially like the Jewish diaspora,
yes,
they funneled a lot of, even to this day, they're sending money
back, yes,
and resources back to the government of Israel. I'm not saying they're dependent on that, because I said that before, and I was corrected. They're not entirely dependent on outside funds, but it is a big part of their budget.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, if they didn't have that, they would have to adapt, and it would be a more difficult time of it.
I don't think the island just is like, oh, hey, I got $1 billion here. Like, even $1 billion is like not a lot compared to the infrastructure and the resources a nation needs and generates.
Yeah.
So, I'm hoping they can, find some way to get a little bit of extra resource, sent over, maybe some financial assistance helped out here and there to help them get on their feet. But that's the thing is right now, like this concept is this like, oh, island for the Syrian refugees. Was it Nova Syria, we'll call it? New Syria, Nova Syria.
Okay, all right.
It's an interesting. I'll say this: it worked very well for Seattle in Shadowrun.
Yeah.
Although I suppose that shouldn't be a good example to try and set. I mean, there's a lot of violence going on there.
But also, it can be a bit of a problem because there are places like Monaco is. I think some of the European microstates are notorious for being places where people like to stash money. And to avoid taxes in other European nations. If it helps them, fund their little island state, I would be less favorably disposed towards it. I'm never big about hiding your money, but if it helps a bunch of refugees get on their feet and get a nice little economy going, and there's worse things you could do with funneled money, right? The other thing is, some people say that's part of the problem with Greece is that Greece has its wealthy people.
Yeah.
And part of the reason why they one of many reasons why they were doing poorly is because they have an inability of actually chasing those wealthy people down because they hide their money away from Greek taxes in island states. So if there was this other island state, it would be, oh, great, all our millionaires can have another place to stash
But
their
at least
money.
you can say, we're going to try and get them for this other stuff, not for this state that needs the help anyways. So that way you get your preferential targets.
Yeah.
And that way the rich Greek people can put their money into Nova Syria, and oh well, you know what? At least they're helping out with their funneled money, and if they don't put the money in Nova Syria and they put it elsewhere, that means Nova Syria winds up becoming a slum. Then we have to deal with this a pit of crime that's causing organized crime issues coming out onto the mainland, and we don't want that. So we'll prosecute a little bit more leniently and a little slower on it. Sometimes corruption, if in moderation, could wind up having positive ends.
Okay, well...
I'm not going to say it's as easy to do or very common, but done right, and it could be worse.
All right, well, let them try it.
But that's the thing. This is, as I call it, Nova Syria thing, it's got so much potential fiction for its future. Only one future could potentially happen. It might not even happen at all if Greece doesn't, sell or lease the island or whatever. But right now, it's infinite potential going on there for how it could be.
That's kind of cool. Yeah, I like dreaming about getting a new start. That's sort of really cool.
No, we could say that about anything going on. I mean, in a few weeks we've got a Canadian election, but it's not the same sort of thing. There'll still be Canada, after the election, just maybe with fingers crossed, a different, person in charge.
Yeah, I like it because it tends to stir the imagination in sort of a large group of people. If you have a new big project like that,
like an epic sort of, a grand future as opposed to just a new tomorrow that the new Greece government or the new Canadian government will wind up having.
Yeah, it's a little bit like what we talk about settling Mars and stuff like that. Like that sparks the imagination. You're like, oh, we could have a new society and design it this in this way.
And I have always said that there's a very big difference between America and Canada as nations as opposed to Europe. And it's a lot to do with age.
Yeah,
when you're starting a new government, you can start fresher, make things a little clearer, hopefully. But things accumulate, go a little, I guess, crazy as a nation ages and matures. Unfortunately, we happen to have run out of continents to, just have to be the new world and colonize. So I guess we have to work on a bit of a smaller scale, start a new, like an island nation going on there. Until we got Mars, or the moon colonization stuff going. So there's always that, but
and I suppose we can all turn inward to our Minecraft worlds and
Minecraft has some inherent limitations.
Or SimCity or Civilization, Sid Meier's Civilization or something like that.
Which reminds me, there still isn't like a role-playing game for that sort of thing, is there?
Oh, for what?
For
which one?
Doing like a nation state.
No, I guess
Birthright was as close as I ever saw.
Did you play the Pathfinder Kingmaker? Did you play that?
No. I'm still looking up more stuff and trying to find somehow copies of all the Birthright things.
Okay. Kingmaker is more recent, and it was designed for Pathfinder, and I played a few sessions of it when I guess this must be a few years ago because I was still in Prince George, but I played a few sessions with.
Well, it have to be at least 3 years ago because we just recently celebrated 3 years.
Yeah, because I moved here in 2012, so it would have been 2011, 2012-ish. But yeah, the group that I was one of the groups. I don't think you were. No, you might have known one or two of those.
After that, yeah.
Like I think occasionally people would cross over, but I'm not sure if you would have actually ever gamed with any of this group in particular.
Complete strangers. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's kind of neat that Prince George had enough gamers in it that you could have entirely different groups and circles playing D&D. But yeah, we played Kingmaker, and it was like an adventure path. You know how they do for Pathfinder?
Yeah.
That's what they do. And
campaign arc sort of thing.
The Pathfinder developers, the Paizo, had created some specialized rules for running a kingdom, and they made sort of roles, 5 or 6, I think, like things like your treasurer, your captain of the army, and your king, and your this and that. So basically, the players, I think there was something like that. So the players could all be one of those people, and then they'd have like little duties that were stuff.
Do you gain special powers? Because the one thing I liked about Birthright was there's always been that font of nobility. Like how are you able to rule? Well, I have been bequeathed it. I have the power within me. It's within my veins. It's a hereditary thing that might be weeded out, or strengthened depending on my nature with the land. And I guess that applies well enough in history, but in the Birthright campaign setting, you actually did get powers based on how powerful and how much land you had, how much connection you had to it. And you could have different stuff based on your classes. So, if you're like playing a fighter, you'd have more of a martial holding stuff going on where you can get your power from, whereas a cleric would have it from having worshippers, worshipping the right god.
Okay.
They gain extra ambient power off that sort of thing. It's a very, very interesting style, seeing it as an actual manifestation that I haven't seen anywhere else.
I think, Kingmaker...
By the way, 5th edition, I'm looking at you. You got chances. You got potential on this. Let it go. Have some fun. Birthright 5e.
Did you hear that Wizards actually was going to shut down their forums? I don't know if they went ahead with it, but because I haven't been on there for a long time, but Wizards of the Coast is their official forums. They were shutting them down.
They open and close a lot of stuff. I don't know if they'll close for all forums forever.
Yeah.
But you know what? With the way Reddit stuff goes these days...
Yeah, I think Reddit kind of serves as that version. Plus, there's EN World is still going strong.
Oh, yes, going very strong. I always like to peek in there from time to time.
And Giant in the Playground has some pretty active forums still.
Beautiful forums going on there. They've got their 3.5 work for class power levels and essential magical items, I think is almost definitive in the nerdy fields. So, if that's what you want, that quality, that's the quality they've got there for the Giant and the Playground stuff.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, Kingmaker has like I think some +2s on skills, that kind of thing. I don't think it has anything like major, like you gain a spell-like ability or.
Well, I think I'll stick with Birthright then.
Yeah, probably Birthright has more flavorful, I guess.
Well, the thing is, they had Investiture, and you could wind up stealing power from it, so you could be like some sort of like a like nobility vampire. You just wind up stealing the noble blood.
Oh, that's kind of neat.
Yeah, there's some groovy stuff. There's like a horrible beast called the Gorgon that wound up like he would like cause the rise of entire dynasties just to feed on them when they got powerful, because he needed the best and most potent blood possible.
Mm-hmm.
And he needed the most powerful of the rich bloodlines inherited and such. That said, if it was a 5th edition, I would like to see it a bit more of a generic sort of style, so that you could incorporate such things into any sort of campaign.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay.
So, that's my 2 cents worth, at least, for nation building and having magic powers.
That's interesting, yeah, that we got to nation building and RPGs. Yeah, it's cool.
Just one way to look at it. So yeah, that was just been the relevant news this week.
Great.
How about fictional-based news? What you been doing that never actually happened, Josh?
Let's start with a little bit of Minecraft. I played some Minecraft. I played. I can't remember now if I mentioned last week that I'm starting a new horse base. Did I tell you about my horse base?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. So yeah, I've decided that what I want is a really fancy complex.
Oh,
it's going to be like
big.
Hundreds of blocks in square, 100 by 100 or something or maybe more.
Not 206 by 206 exactly like I managed to work out.
It might end up. Well, who knows how big it's going to end up being? But
horses need space, man.
Yeah, and I want to do like a spacious barn for each color of horse, so I can have like a fairly a number of that kind of horse.
Very nice, dig it.
So that's like 37 colors worth of horses.
So it's a big barn. You might want to work with different kinds of barns. One for solid color, one for dappled, all that sort of thing, and work things through.
Yeah, I might do that. Are you going
to keep it really traditional style for a barn, or are you going to work with a multi-story barn thing going on?
I was going to do it I don't really like multi-story stuff because I always make the stairs really cramped.
I have noticed that problem too. You know what I found worked for me? Avoiding the actual use of stair blocks and then just do slabs.
Yeah, slabs could probably do it.
That force it twice as far out, and you kind of start thinking bigger that way, and that has helped me a lot.
Yeah. And I was just thinking when you get that big and that sort of sprawling and expansive, it's almost better just to have it be a hill, and then sort of under the hill is another an underground barn or something like that. Which, I mean, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But basically, all I have right now is I'm building it on top of a village, or at least beside a village.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, what I've been doing is sort of improving the village, giving it walls to keep the zombies out, and adding a few buildings so that there's plenty of doors for the villagers.
Are you trying to work as still functional looking buildings, or are you just doing wall and door wall?
It's functional because what I'm doing. Do you know how Minecraft villages come with a building that's 4x4 or 5x5, those little ones? Basically, I'm sort of doubling those, so it's here's that building, and then I'm just expanding it twice the size, and then adding a second door.
Okay.
And in some cases, a second story with a door up top with a little balcony. So
okay, so it is still very realistic looking, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm sort of trying my best.
Not my horrible style, where it's just doors on all the walls and then corners, and that's it.
Yeah, and I'm trying to keep that sort of style and theme that the villages have. I'm trying to keep that as much as possible, but sort of expand it and be what would this style of building look like if it was twice as big, or something? If it was a long building, or if it was a tall building. And so basically I've just been making the city nice so that it keeps the villagers flowing, and I put put all the kinds of animals in there too, and then started breeding them up really big. So it's a really busy, it's got all animals mixed with villagers, mixed with I have dogs in there too, and I've been breeding wolves, so there's all the animals all in it.
That's pretty groovy.
Yeah, and then just outside the city I have I found a naturally occurring horseshoe shaped ravine.
Oh.
And it was like, oh, this is like perfect. So I was like, I'm going to use this somehow, but I still haven't figured out. All of my stuff is in the bottom of it, like in chests and stuff. So it's my storage area, but I haven't figured out like how to make it like.
That's okay. At least you know that I want to do something with this.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So I'm thinking, I might build the barn on top of it, or like somehow like looking down into it, or at least my first barn, because there's going to have to be a
multiple barns.
Yeah, basically.
Oh, that's
but
great.
yeah, it's a whole other area of the world to develop, like sort of from very little. Like it's just a plain with a village in it, and I'm going to turn it into
something
like
grand and glorious,
bustling horse metropolis, where I can, anytime I need a horse in the other parts of the world, I can go back there and just be like, okay, what color do I want? Like, do I want a fast one, or this and that?
Yeah, the one thing I don't like about breeding horses is the stats tend to mediocre out.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is why I think I might just do the old ways, soul shard stuff, and I just wind up killing 64 horses. Then, like, what horse do I want? And just keep having them pop out every 20 seconds until I get what I want. Which is kind of cheaty, but whatever. It's my style. It's my system.
Yeah. So I played some Minecraft, and I watched a movie today or yesterday. Like in the theater.
Fancy pants! Theater watching.
Yeah, well, I went with my family, and my dad paid for my ticket. So.
Oh, look at you, a family man, and all doing stuff with your dad and your siblings.
I guess I deserve that because I gave you the same treatment when you went with your family. So.
Yeah. No, I'm just razzing you. So what movie did you wind up watching?
We watched. It's starring Billy Connolly. I think it's called What We Did on Our Holiday.
Oh, yes. Oh, I'm always a big fan of Billy Connolly.
Yeah.
By the way, if you ever get the chance, go see his comedy routines. See him on different nights, because he never does the same routine. He always tries to vary things up. So you can go 2 different nights, and it'll be 2 different stuff and sets going on there.
Are you saying you've seen him live, or?
I've listened to him chatting on the Q.
Okay.
So yeah, he does different comedy routines, and he purposely does that so that way you can like buy the tickets twice and see 2 different things. It's not the same routine twice. He's got a bit of a different style than a lot of stand-up comedians, so it gives me a lot of respect for him. So yeah. That's
good. Yeah, and I really liked his performance in this movie. He plays the grandpa, and
he is getting into that age category.
Yeah, well, he's had this beautiful long white hair for probably forever. So yeah, he's quite suited to being that grandpa type. He plays a grandpa who's dying of cancer. Let's see, should I spoil it? I don't. It happens early in the movie, so
don't spoil too much.
Okay, well,
just what themes did you really dig about it? What really came through for you?
Oh, what came through? Well,
was it truly a family flick? Was it something you'd recommend?
Yes, because
the folks too, and then your siblings along.
It's definitely a family movie. It has a few innuendos and jokes, but
that was Billy Connolly.
that's fine, kids.
He is the guy who coined the phrase, give me a fire-breathing whore.
But I mean, if I had kids, I would take them to it.
Well, age appropriate, of course. I would not take my daughter to a Billy Connolly.
Well, she wouldn't get it for her own reasons, and
she'd
just
be bored.
Sitting still for that long is.
She has sat through a few movies. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs keeps her complete attention the entire way through.
Well, she would. In that case, she would enjoy parts of this movie. I think there are parts that she wouldn't understand, and that's this movie. It veers between sort of funny content and almost like adult. Like it's a crime
layered.
movie. Yeah. It's a sad movie in a lot of ways. So the adults will probably get something different out of it than the kids will.
There's nothing wrong with that. Every time I watch Stand By Me, it's a different movie.
Yeah. And I really enjoyed the first part of the movie. These characters they're almost cartoon-like, and each character is the dad, he lies all the time. Everything he does, he's always lying. Even little things that he doesn't have to lie about, he's just he's one of those I guess pathological liars or whatever.
He can't help but lie.
He just has to, yeah. He's And, like, you know, it bugs you, of course, and it bugs the other characters, because the other, like, why, like, him and his wife are, you know, going through they've decided they want a divorce, but we'll, you know, see what happens at the end of the movie. Because they get together to do this travel.
Big celebration to the grandfathers.
Yeah, like a road trip to Scotland to, you know, meet other family and, you know, have an adventure together. And you can guess that the trajectory of a film where that's going.
The romance rekindles in their relationship.
Yeah, but yeah, basically he's like, he makes them, drives the kids crazy, drives his wife crazy, his ex, his kind of wife, I guess. Yeah, his wife in the movie, so drives her crazy, and she has her own, like, flaws and stuff, and, like, so you kind of, you get this sense of this whole family that's, like, a little bit dysfunctional, and it's actually, like, it's fun. It's cartoony in some ways. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, sometimes people don't act like that, but yeah, some of those things you're like, yes, definitely, like, you know, I know people who do that, and that's so stupid, and
yet they do it every time that situation rolls around.
Yeah, so it's fun. There's little scenes here and there of, like, people of just the family doing something funny or weird that sort of every family does, and it's like, oh yeah, and you laugh at that.
Haha, I can relate to this. They are family.
But I guess the thing I didn't like was at the end, they all sort of became perfect. Like, all of the flaws that they had all at the beginning of the movie, they're like, oh yeah, we'll just drop it at the end of the movie. We'll just not be flawed anymore. I mean, I guess it's not that simple because they don't show what happens at the end, but it's like they have a little vignette, little scene of each character that they had introduced who had, you know, some problem, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm not going to lie anymore. Well, I guess that's the thing about the liar. He's like, I'm definitely never going to lie again.
So, yeah, that's the last person you want to trust on that statement.
So I guess in that sense, it's not exactly tied up. But the movie it feels like the movie's trying to give you that idea that, oh, look, film goers, everything is fine at the end. But it's, I don't know. So I didn't like that it was
schmaltzy ending.
Because, and the characters became less interesting by the end of this. Like,
fair enough, yeah.
But that made me think of something, though, and I'm wondering if this is true of kind of all stories, movies, TV shows, and stuff like that. Is it the case that maybe in the beginning of a movie, the characters have to be interesting, and then they sort of, as they solve their problems, is it sort of almost expected that they become less interesting, and by the end of the story, you can end it because it's like, oh, I'm not interested in this person anymore because they're done.
I'm going to say no. Sometimes they become more interesting as things go because you understand them more. You get your Mr. Cool guy, and he's doing all the cool stuff, and it's like, oh man, this guy's like so awesome, and then you find out why he's being as he is, and that just makes him even more awesome.
Okay, yeah.
Sort of thing. So done right, they should get more interesting as it progresses. That said, conflict resolution does tend to make a dull person.
Yeah.
Kind of why Rambo never finds that inner harmony he's ever looking for, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that's a thing to look into. Pay attention on your next movie next time you watch that, then. Is it, they get more or less interesting as the movie goes on.
It's just a sort of a hypothesis that I have that it might be the case in more movies than not that characters move from interesting to less, or maybe there's sort of a bell curve of like not interested because I don't know them, but they're doing something maybe that piques my interest a little bit. That they're walking down the street and they look like they have a plan, so it's like a little bit of interest, and then what's their plan? Oh, they're doing that. Why are they doing that? A little bit more interest, and then they start to succeed, and then your interest starts to drop off. Or
what if you start off with not being interested in them because they're like a bit of a jerk? And then you understand that what they're doing makes sense and there's a reason for it, and then they become more interesting and relatable.
Yeah, I guess that's the whole... It's sort of parallel to the rising and falling, rising action, climax story model that we all learned. Hopefully we all learned in high school, I don't know, high school English.
We were supposed to learn it. Whether or not we thought it was very valid is another issue.
Yeah, I don't know. But it's another way to look at that, I suppose, is how interested are you in the character over the course of the story. You could plot that on a graph and see what happened. What
if a character is so interesting that they have to die because they're not going to wind up getting dull? Like you watch Watchmen sort of thing. Rorschach is very interesting all the way through. Not a good guy, really, but very interesting. And then I guess spoiler alert, boom, he's dead.
Yeah.
So there's never a point where he doesn't become uninteresting. He just winds up, coming up against something where he cannot survive it. And
well, I think I want to bring up Derek Shepherd from Grey's Anatomy, who last season, in case you're not caught up with Grey's Anatomy.
I'm almost ready to watch the pilot.
Well, then, yeah, it'll be a few years before you get to...
spoil it for me.
So I think I'm going to go ahead and spoil it. Derek Shepherd dies at the end of last season. So
got better.
We're just about to start a new season. But I think that character was starting... I mean, they still could have done interesting stories with him, but I think that character was starting to become a little bit less interesting. And they were able to do less... If they were focusing on him, they could do less with his wife, with Meredith, who's the main character of the series. So they feel like they can have more... She can be more interesting if he's out of the picture.
Just remember, you can keep a boring person so long as they act as like the viewer surrogate.
Yeah.
So it's like, we know the guy, he's a little boring now, but we know him, and then you wind up having other people get introduced through them.
I guess the thing about him, though, it might be just my imagination, but he seems so charismatic and so that character, because he's like a rock star. He's a brain surgeon. He's like awesome guy.
You better not be rocking out during brain surgery.
I think he might at some point. Yeah, playing some music or whatever. But basically, yeah, he's
no head banging during brain surgery.
Yeah, he's this kind of superhero character. So I think when you're watching the show, sometimes you might be wondering, why are we spending so much time with Meredith, who's just kind of like slogging through her life and just like, I'm a working mom, and I have kids at home, husband at work, I'm just kind of doing the daily grind. Whereas like you might be tempted to say, well, why don't we spend more time watching what her husband is doing, because he's like this awesome guy doing like...
Because you get burnout on that stuff.
Oh, yeah, I suppose.
Watch MASH sometime and tell me when you just don't want to see any more of Hawkeye for a little bit. I love the character Hawkeye. Alan Alda, I think, is a great actor, but there's a time where he wound up getting a concussion and he wound up having to talk to himself continuously to avoid like falling under from the concussion and dying. And I was like, okay, I'm kind of done with Hawkeye now. Let's just see someone else for a while.
Interesting, yeah, because Hawkeye. Well, that's the difference between Grey's Anatomy is Derek was never intended to be the lead of that show, because it's Meredith Grey's the main character, right?
Yeah, hence Grey.
But he was definitely a major character. He was one of the main characters.
That's why you get an ensemble cast, like MASH.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Grey's has a... I mean...
You were able to swap out like 50% of the people in MASH, and the thing still ran on all cylinders. That's pretty good, man.
Yeah. And so I wonder, I do wonder if when you choose to kill off a character, sometimes like Rorschach, for example, if it might be the case that if you hadn't killed them off, they would have become uninteresting, or they would have become a distraction, or they would have kind of got in the way of the rest of the story.
You would have
as a writer. I don't know. It's just a theory.
Well, there's a saying is life isn't just a continued existence; it is the death of morals.
Okay.
The only people
who said that?
I don't know. Someone said it back. Attribute unknown. But in concept, that the only people that keep their morals are the people that die for them. Everyone else compromises.
I see. Yeah.
And capitulates at some point. So there's something to be said on that one.
Interesting, yeah.
So that was your week, eh?
Yeah, that's mine. Yeah, sorry. What about you? What did you do?
I saw a movie this week. I rented it because there's no way I was going to pay money to see it in the theater. Dragon Ball Evolution.
Okay.
Dragon Ball. It was horrible and it was great at the same time.
Okay.
Which is weird. Let's see here. The actors were great. James Marsters played Piccolo. You've got Chow Yun-fat, who played Master Roshi, and you've even got an appearance of Ernie Hudson as a grand old master sort of thing going on in one of those temples. And they all did great stuff. The martial arts cinematography was great. I mean, Chow Yun-fat is not in a movie that has bad martial arts cinematography. So it was good there. most of the characters I dug to some degree.
Was this an animated film?
No, this was the
Live
live
action?
action one that got heavily criticized and is universally reviled, I believe.
Oh, okay.
But I'm gonna make sure it's not universally reviled, because I gotta say, I think I saw the stitches for where they turned it from a martial arts movie into a Dragon Ball movie.
I see. Okay.
Do
you think it was the script was for something else?
It
got changed
seems
into
like it very
Dragon
well
Ball?
could have been like I was watching it, and at one point I just said to myself, you know what? If they had changed the names and done a few visual effects changes, it would have been a perfect standalone movie. Very much in the style of the Mortal Kombat movies that they released. It could have been an homage to the fantastic martial arts movies of the 90s, and people would have loved it, I think. But what they decided to keep and what they decided to drop for the whole thing, for how it works with the Dragon Ball storyline, was just almost arbitrary. I liked all the characters. The Goku guy was kind of weird, but groovy. I don't think they wrote him right though. But I was thinking about it, and it's like, well, Goku is a lot like Superman in that he's kind of hard to write, because it's kind of hard for some people to wrap their head around such a good, positive moral, like center, and just general, I fight for the side of good because it's the right thing to do. And so maybe that was the reason they decided to turn Goku into a high school student with no friends. Oh, I won't call it a spoiler alert, but I will note by the end of it, he decides not to finish high school, so he is a high school dropout come the end of it. Make of that what you will. I dug all the characters. Chow Yun-Fat made a great Master Roshi. I really dug him on that one. But instead of having like an island, off in like a tropical area, he's the last house left over that never sold for like a development thing. So he's in an island because everything else around him has been demolished to make way for this new high-rise thing. He's got an island on that one. So I found that one, I wasn't certain if I liked that or didn't like it. So it's like, it's an interesting change. I mean, it's definitely an island in the middle of a city sort of thing going on. Not bad. Bulma was great. Her special effects, like in the cartoon sort of thing, she's like the daughter of the head of Capsule Corp. So they got all these things in a capsule. You just throw it on the ground. Oh, it pops. The special effects for that were amazing. Yeah, she throws down like a thing, and it turns into like a motorcycle. That was great, man. That was a Transformers-worthy transformation. I loved it. I didn't like Chi-Chi. Goku's love interest winds up becoming the mother of his children later on in the cartoon series. In this one, she's a popular girl who hangs out with a whole bunch of really bad bully jock dicks. And she's got a secret in that she does martial arts on the side, but no one would truly get her if that, so please don't tell anyone. I mean, that's the whole bit, though. The bit that really didn't make much sense for me was him being like a high school student in a modern-day era. It doesn't fit for what Goku's like in the mythic sense. And it doesn't fit the characters. Although I did appreciate the scene where Goku was told never to, pick a fight with the other people of the school. And so when the other people come looking for a fight for him, because he was invited to, the birthday party sort of thing, he beats them up by avoiding all their hits and their blows. So he winds up demolishing the guy's car by simply jumping out of the way as he's swinging a stick around. But yeah, long story short, I think it must have been at least 6 guys wind up heavily hurting themselves by swinging metal sticks around at each other and cracking them all which ways and punching each other's lights out. And then the party just keeps on going. And it's just like, did the ambulance show up? Like, did the cops show up when these 6 kids got taken to the, the hospital for massive injuries? But no, the party just keeps on going. It's just like, whoa, parties don't work like that. This writer was never invited to a party in high school. That's not how things go. Everything else I really dug. So if they had just changed the Dragon Balls into, I don't know, Talisman or something, change, the Piccolo guy into like a space alien, sort of thing, make it more like an alien rather than just like an evil overlord, whatever. Make it not quite Earth, but still kind of very much like Earth sort of thing. It would have played beautifully. Spoiler, I suppose. Now, here's the weird thing I also didn't get, was that in the backstory, Piccolo's got like this, demon monster henchman. Piccolo gets banished to the center of the Earth where everything sucks, because, it's like you're paralyzed, but you're still conscious. And then this demon henchman disappears. And then later on, they go back to the Goku's origin, where he crash lands on a planet as a baby. After 18 or so years, he winds up thrashing the place and demolishing all life. It's kind of how they did things in the cartoons there. But he's the demon thing. So it's like he's 2,000 years old, but they still say he crash landed on Earth 18 years ago. And it's like, whoa. Reconcile. But they never did. So he winds up being like the ape demon thing, and he winds up overcoming it. So yeah, it could have just been that he was like he has his soul is the soul of like the demon henchman and all that. And they could have played that off. Well, you didn't need to be Goku, didn't need to be Bulma, didn't need to be Master Roshi. You could have come up with completely different names, change a few of the visual styles and effects. Instead of like some sort of ape demon, just make him more like a demon. Whatever. Bam. It would have been its own movie, would have been a good own movie. But they decided to make it a Dragon Ball movie, and so it was not a good Dragon Ball movie, but it wasn't a bad movie on its own. If you're the kind of person who can rework a movie as you're watching it, to edit out some of the weirdness things like I can, it's a great movie. By all means, give it a shot. I mean, it's a decent movie, to watch. There's some good things going on in there. So thumbs up, unless you're watching it as a Dragon Ball movie, as it's presented, in which case thumbs down.
Right. Well, do you think it helps or hinders, like, if you're more familiar with the original cartoon and the whole...
I imagine if you don't know anything about what's going on, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But then again, these movies never really need to. It's a martial arts flick. Well, what is martial arts flick be noted for its massive plot?
Yeah, so it's just sort of cool thing happens, and then another cool thing happens, and
it's the story of a person who
it.
winds up, like avenging his grandfather and realizing who he truly is.
Okay.
Fine with that. I'm not asking for big things in my martial arts films, but as a Dragon Ball movie, it was a sore disappointment. I recommend watching the Dragon Ball cartoon movies that keep coming out.
Okay, so you're more of a fan of the cartoon movies and the cartoon.
Well, that's the thing. If you're going to do it as a Dragon Ball movie, you got to keep the Dragon Ball style. You got to keep the stuff. I would have loved it if like a guy like the Piccolo had done something unexpected, and everybody just goes to a reaction shot of everybody like they did in the cartoon. I would have loved that. It would have been a great little homage. That's like, oh yeah, they totally did that in the cartoon. But the Goku story, for all the Dragon Ball, is like a journey to the west, sort of, grand, sort of almost mythological tale. And this one really wasn't. The high school thing just started off on the wrong foot. Like, they could have tried keeping things. It's like, oh yeah, because there is like cities and all that stuff in the Dragon Ball universe. I mean, there's big cities and stuff going on there. But I mean, like the Chi-Chi you saw at the beginning, like the one that was like, oh yeah, she's the popular girl at school, and the martial artist you saw for the second half of the movie, they could have definitely been two different ladies. The girl he has a crush on, and then later on someone who's more to his style, he winds up as like, why did I have a crush on her? This is a person who shares my interests. It could have been two different persons. So it's like, they could have done... So, the only person I'm going to blame on this is the writer and any executives. I put no blame on any of the actors, any of the people filming it, any of the financiers. I don't even put the blame on the company itself. Aside from the executives, they help meddle in with the things.
I see.
I'm doing a surgical cut of blame here, and I'm focusing it all on the script writer and the executives.
Okay.
Everything else, I absolve.
Right.
So that's my big thing, because
cool.
I dug it. I mean, like I still have it, I think. I wouldn't mind watching it again.
Well, do you recommend listeners watch it, then? Our listeners, in particular? The people who have been listening to us for 158 episodes?
You know what? If you want to have just a nice casual evening, definitely. This is not like a sit-down, this is going to be a serious movie. We all got to sit down. This is not like watching, like, Dune, which is another bad movie, but within an epic scope and sense. Or at least a popular acclaim for a bad movie. This is like a fun bad movie. This is something you'd almost want to watch with friends. Get your friends over, have some fun with it, get some popcorn, and just
and yell stuff out of the TV.
Yeah, just Mystery Science Theater, the whole darn thing, man. Have some fun with it.
Okay.
It's a fun film.
Do you think have they done it, Mystery Science Theater?
Well, I think they've effectively retired. They might do riff tracks of it.
Okay.
So I might have to look that up. In which case, I definitely am going to watch it with the riff tracks going on.
Okay.
But yeah, I recommend it. I mean...
Oh, how old is this movie?
It's a few years old.
Okay.
It's not too old, but, it's a few years back.
Okay.
Yeah, don't worry, James Marsters. Don't worry, Chow Yum Fat. Don't worry, Ernie Hudson. You get no blame on this. I absolve you of it all. Here's the thing, like... James,
is Ernie Hudson the...
He was
Ernest
the Black
Goes to
Ghostbuster.
Camp guy?
He was the Black Ghostbuster.
Oh, he's... Okay.
He was Winston Zedmore.
Ghostbusters. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Well, that was his most prominent role, I suppose. The thing with James Marsters is the makeup was a little bit goofy, but you had to make it look like the character, right? But he still seemed very sinister in all that he did. And I have the suspicion you could dress James Marsters up like an 18th century dandy boy, with the floppy hat and the blue shorts and the weird crazy bow, and you could still have him look incredibly sinister by his actions and the way he speaks. I think he's a good enough actor you could get him to dress stupid goofy and still intimidate.
Yeah.
So if nothing else, I learned that about his skill and his talent that way. There you go. In other news, I think I'm going to start winding down my Minecraft game I'm currently playing.
All of Minecraft, or are you going to start a new world?
Map.
Okay.
When I got rid of the Mo Creatures stuff and the associated mob spawner, the world stopped spawning, random mobs.
Oh, right. Okay.
I started up a new game and tested it out, and sure enough, night fell and monsters started spawning. So yay! It's just the one thing I'm in.
Yeah.
But I kind of miss being afraid of the night and doing stuff and getting the experience that way.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's kind of nice to start over if you can at least still have that world to go back to.
But here's the thing: I've got a plan where I can keep what I've got and still start anew.
Okay.
Because I have found a mod that, with the use of a computer-based mod, something that puts computers in the game, will allow me to create a warp drive and go up into space, which is another world. And from that one, it allows you to access other worlds, like the Galacticraft Mars or the Moon, or Mistcraft worlds. So I got a plan. I will get all the right stuff together, and I will create a void dimension for another new Mistcraft world. So it'll just be like the 5x5 cobblestone square, and that's it. No sun, no moon, no clouds, no stars. I might change the color of it, so it's not just a black background, because I have the option for that.
Oh yeah.
So I might go with some nice fun colors on there. But it's going to be like that. So I'm going to keep it, and then I'm going to build myself a sanctuary out of reality, and some nether void. I'm going to build, a place to store all my wonderful stuff that I've got in this game. And then I'm going to save my game, copy that Mistcraft world, and put it in the new world, so that my goal in the new game is to get the resources enough to get myself into outer space and put myself through space far enough so that I can find my sanctuary again.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's my goal.
Yeah.
Which means, I guess, in the next world, I'll be doing a little bit more with factories and I think I will go with the mechanism mod.
Ooh, neat.
I believe it has computers that would mesh well with the warp drive stuff. So,
okay.
Yeah. And, give it a little chance, right? I've tried my magic, now let's try the machinery stuff, see which one appeals to me. So yeah, I'm gonna have to do some adventuring, and find the stuff, because every Mistcraft world you create does come with a temple, sort of like a little shrine thing where you can get more pages. And I've gone into one world and already found it. It was a nice world, very very good. No monsters, of course, because they don't spawn in this current game of mine. But it's got sheep and it's got chickens and all that stuff, and lakes made out of molten glass. And liquid Ethereum, which is kind of nice for the Ars Magica stuff I'm checking out right now. So it's like, oh boy, more resources. But I don't think it's a world I'm going to keep.
Right.
Oh well. But I'm going to have some fun exploring, and then I'm going to wrap up my current game. I'm going to use the eyes I get, the Ender eyes, and go into the end, and I'm going to fight the dragon. I'm going to collect the egg. I'm going to put that in my little sanctuary.
So, what is your final sort of ceremony for that? Are you just going to kind of leave it pristine, or are you going to do something dramatic? Light some fireworks off, or
maybe make a bunch of nice small houses for the people in the town that I started next to, effectively. Make sure that they've got a spot, because right now they're living in a quarter of a building that I chopped all the sides off to make proper passageways and all that.
Yeah. And they lived happily ever after.
as he went off to his other world, and they lived in their wonderful protected, city. I might take some stuff with me on there, like the blue slime that I've accumulated. I won't take that with me. I have some fun with that. That's the only thing that's spawning monsters right now, besides my monster spawner, is the blue slime. It's just spawning blue oozes. That's the only source of experience I got right now. Oh, aside from my some of my stuff from the Tinker's Construct that gives me experience. I'll take that with me, but I'll leave the ore production behind. But now I'm going to have to start thinking like, well, what I'm going to build in my sanctuary. It's because I got the stuff. I can transport materials. I could start like a true like building like citadel sort of sanctuary. So I'm going to have to sit down and think like, what am I going to build on this? There's a few other mods I'm thinking of including in. Chisel. This is the one, or Chisel too, I suppose, is the mod I'm looking at primarily. That just allows you to make different looking blocks. And I'm big on the building, and that's kind of what it's about. It's for people that like the more construction aspect of it. So it's like, well, you pegged me on this one, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of putting that one in, so that way I can do more than just 3 different types of sandstone, which, by the way, I have a lot of. I finally finished carving off the side of that mountain that was in my way. Because there's no monsters to stop me. I'm digging all day and all night. And, now I've got something like 14,000 stacks of, sandstone. It's a lot.
It just occurred to me that it'd be kind of cool in Minecraft. Like, it's fun when monsters come out at night, because you get to fight them.
Yeah.
But it also would be kind of neat if, like, killing the dragon or something, or killing the wither maybe, was like, oh, okay, now the zombie apocalypse is over, and, like, monsters don't spawn
so things
anymore.
changed. So, you'd have... like a reduced monster spawning thing.
Well, yeah, or no, like the zombie apocalypse. I guess it's over. I guess you've just because why do zombies and skeletons appear every night? Is there some kind of negative energy in the world?
I always imagined the moon in the Minecraft world was evil.
Maybe,
and
yeah,
thus
maybe
it's
the moon is
sending
evil.
its minions down to scour the land.
So, if you could destroy the moon or block it out or
which brings
purify
us back
the
to
moon,
Dragon Ball, destroy the moon to save the world from werewolves. Woo!
Yeah. Then you could that would be a way to win the game,
or maybe purify the moon.
Yeah, maybe purify them. If you go on a.
How are you at modding? Could you do that as a mod, Josh?
Could
you
I
find some way to purify the moon?
It would take some work, but I believe I have the necessary knowledge to. Yeah.
In that case, may I make a recommendation? That's a very unique sort of concept. I haven't seen or heard anything else close to it in Minecraft.
Well, okay, yeah, maybe that's something I should work on. I have some free time. I could probably pull it off.
Well, sit down and think about what it would entail and how you might be able to work it. Put up a Patreon just for that. There's some people that do their mods that are getting a couple $100 a month easy off the Patreon stuff.
Okay, yeah.
So if you got yourself a unique product, something that doesn't infringe on anyone else's, you got yourself a good in on that. And if it's something groovy like, we purified the moon, and now, we don't have to worry about the dead coming back sort of thing. Woo, that's pretty good. You might have to purify the earth to make sure the creepers don't spawn, or maybe just prevent them from blowing up. That's all it does, is they just don't blow up anymore.
Yeah, I like that thought that the creepers... Well, the creepers...
Or they blow up slower.
The way Notch... I think we've told this story before, but when Notch first made creepers, it was because he oriented the pigs wrong. He made the body vertical instead of...
Yeah, he put the wrong numbers.
Swapped the axes.
Yeah.
So...
Said, wow, this looks super creepy. Gotta use it.
Yeah, and then he's like, oh, okay, well, there is a monster right there. So yeah, if you purified the world, creepers could turn back into some kind of upright pig or something.
Well, maybe that's the thing. Maybe you go into the Nether and you find some way to cure the zombie apocalypse for the pigmen, and then you actually just encounter regular pigmen.
Yeah, that'd be neat. Yeah.
That's a very noble goal, I think, to have. Purify the worlds.
Yeah, that would be a proper, because people, they talk about Minecraft not having a real end, and then they added the end. And that was like, okay, yeah, we know what you're doing there. Yeah.
Could you purify the end and wind up turning them from Endermen into big Endermen?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
All white, super not creepy at all.
I always thought that I would like to find a way just to... The Endermen are fine. Just have them sort of not be aggressive when you look at them or something like that.
Well, maybe that's what you do when you Just make it so that you wind up destroying the Ender Dragon, and then the Endermen wind up becoming passive. You can stare straight at them; they don't care. Yeah, that's a very modern thing to do. That's a very good way to start to test things out.
Yeah,
there you go.
Lots of interesting things that fans can do to alter their Minecraft experience.
Lord knows I'm doing a lot of that. There's another one, actually. It's a gravestone mod that also allows you to make statues. So I'm thinking that would look great in my sanctuary. So I think I'm definitely thinking about that mod. The downside, apparently, is that the gravestone stuff, which you can make, also has a chance at night of spawning zombies or skeletons. So I might have to just stick with the statues. So be it. There's some very nice... They got dog and cat statues. I got a lot of sandstone. I could get a very Egyptian-style theme going on. Especially with the chisel mod for the Egyptian-style hieroglyphics to put in, too.
Yeah.
So I'm having a lot of positive thought about this, and I'm doing some stuff. I built the infernal furnace from Thaumcraft finally. I just dug down underneath my regular area, and I'm starting to try and fix everything up, make it look similar style. And I'm checking it out. I don't know if I'll actually do that in my next game, but the infernal furnace, I'll definitely make sure it's around there. Have something to do with that. And I'm enjoying it. And I'm making the plans of actually going to the end of finding out the Wither and defeating them, and going to because I've got the Thaumcraft. There's the way to use the obelisk to get to the Eldritch dimensions. Gonna have some fun with that, I think.
Cool.
So yeah, it's revitalized me thinking about how to wind down. And I'm digging that. It's a good positive. I'm more re-energized in it. I want to do more again.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
Which means I'll definitely have to use the right stuff to find a way to get that hungry node that I've got just outside of my town in the sanctuary. There's a few ways of doing it, but it's not easy because it has a habit of sucking you up and killing you. So it's like, well, I think there's a few tricks I can use that I can make things work if I do things quickly enough. So I might have to work some stuff out on that one. But I'm intrigued to see how what I can do with that. Because with some of the other mods I've got, I can turn it into a very potent resource for me. And it's like, well, if I've got an infinite void to work with, I think I got a room for it. I can make this stuff happen. So hooray! That's been my week in a nutshell. Bad movies and good ideas.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, we do have an official Notion this week, as it was. Because I have the Cartoon Network, I've been watching some more modern cartoons than something from 30 years ago. And the one that caught my attention is that Steven Universe series. I'd seen a lot of people saying, oh, Steven Universe is amazing, and other people go, God damn it, I'm sick and tired of hearing your Steven Universe crazy fusion stuff. I am tired of it. But you know what, I'm going to give it a shot. I'm digging it. I like the characters and all that. But what really caught my attention for it was the music. There's one bit where his dad, Mr. Universe, not like, the bulging bicep guy, it's just his name, Mr. Universe, was singing a song, like, I'm just a comet. And it's like, well, this is a really good sound to it. Let's see what other music. So I go onto YouTube, and I'm listening to the other music, and there's one character singing a song, and she is like a fusion of two people in one body sort of thing. And she describes herself, and I found this bit just completely stopped me what I was doing. She describes herself as, I am a conversation. And I'm like, that is the most poetically apt description of a fusion of two people together. Like, describe a conversation. It's two people working together to create one dialogue. That's what she is. It's like, that is so poetic, and it's like, whoa. And it got me thinking about fusing two people in one, because, I was watching Dragon Ball this week, and that's one of the things I do later on is you do a fusion dance, and two people become one. If you do it right, you become super powerful. Yeah, I can fight the most powerful badass and, stay on the level. You do it wrong, and you're just like this farting fat mass of you. And that's all it is. So, yeah. But, that's one thing. And then I was thinking, in D&D, you have, third edition, 3.5, you have Gestalt characters as an option. You take two classes and you combine it, and, it's just to one. What if that's how you play your Gestalt character?
As like two entities who
are merged
share
as
a body
one,
or have become a single person.
You could say you could play it very interestingly. You could play we'll go with a cleric and a sorcerer. And in this case, the sorcerer class would reflect a demon, so it could be a demon-possessed cleric. So you wind up being, I've got my clerical powers, but I've also got these demonic, I shoot fireballs out of my fingertips sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You could wind up with a necromancer and cleric, and so you could say that, I'm possessed by a spirit of an ancient sage sort of thing, and so, we're working together as one. So it doesn't necessarily need to be like a physical, we got two people merged as one. Because I won't lie, that has been featured before in 2nd edition, 4 characters fused as one. But that was in Ravenloft, and you can guess how badly things went for that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, not good. So yeah, maybe more of a spiritual fusion in this case.
But yeah, we saw a fused character in Star Trek a couple times where the transporter malfunctioned and combined
yes, Mr.
two characters
Nevox.
together. Yeah.
Yes. Tuvok? Nevox? Oh. I forget which one it was. But yeah, that was a very interesting one because in the end everyone wanted their 2 friends back, not this new guy who's a nice guy, but they kind of want the 2 original back, and he wound up just feeling so ultimately betrayed. There were some issues going on. Like he loved Cass, and he also loved his wife back on Vulcan.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, if they ever get back, boy, I hope polygamy is allowed in the future. Otherwise, things go bad for him, right?
Yeah.
But the concept of fusion is a very interesting thing because there's not a lot going on for it besides a few template things in 3rd edition D&D. It's featured. I mean, a lot of the monsters are fusion. I mean, one of the pivotal monsters of D&D is the owl bear.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is like a bear with some owl features.
Yeah.
You've got your manticore, which has got all sorts of body pieces. You've got your chimera, which chimeric is a term for a fusion of creatures and things.
Mm-hmm.
It's become a verb. It's so prevalent. Hippogriffs, all sorts of things, just wind up being just combining bits and pieces of 2 creatures.
Well, the giraffe was originally called a camelopard, which is a camel leopard.
Yeah, I'm so happy they had a different name. That is just so much better.
Giraffe is a better name? You like giraffe?
Camelopard, yeah.
I think you would, if that was the name you knew them by, you probably wouldn't even think about it.
There is some other fusions that never worked out quite so well in D&D. I remember, I've got a little red box from 1st edition stuff. It's a fusion of a troll, a white, and some other things. So it's 3 creatures fused as one, and it's just a horrible. It's wow, this is a product of caffeine and desperation.
I think that's a good way to start making a character. But yeah, if your description in your book, in your monster entry, in your monster manual
half
is
troll, half orc, and that's being turned into a white.
Yeah, that doesn't convey a real good idea to the reader. But if you kind of wrote a new original description of this is a slavering beast that has an air of death surrounding it or something like that, and drew a cool picture, I think you'd be fine.
I won't lie, I've done that for a couple creatures. I took kobolds, put wings on them, and just called them a new race.
Yeah.
I just made them look a little different, visually. I described them. They're winged. So it says, yay, woo, that's all I did. I put wings on a wolf once. Called them a raven's wings and all that, and I wound up with a pack of a winged dog creatures that trips you. And so it's just a flyby attack trips you, and you can't get close enough for them to hit, and they keep knocking you on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
They're just, horrible. I mean, for the challenge rating it was just absolutely devastating. Annoyingly devastating, too.
Right.
But very good tactics on that one, so I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
But where do you think this comes from, the concept of putting 2 people together as one? I mean, because you see it in the stuff there. The more I was thinking this week, the more examples just kept popping up in my head of fused characters.
Well, the Epic of Gilgamesh describes Gilgamesh and Enkidu as sort of 2 sides of the same, 2 sides of a person. They are technically separate characters, but they are described sometimes as being.
So you get your civilized man versus your wild man.
Yeah, so it might. I don't know if that's directly what we're thinking of.
Wait. When Gilgamesh was supposedly defeating his 7 other things to become immortal, was he fusing with them in that? Was that how he was doing it?
Well, it's possible. I don't think it was explicit, but that's one way to interpret it, I'd say.
Dig it.
And I guess the other thing is that in Egypt, when the pharaohs were sometimes identified with deities, sometimes the way they would describe that would be not necessarily that each pharaoh was his own deity, but that the spirit of Amun-Ra or whichever or Horus came into that pharaoh and sort of inhabited the pharaoh, and then inhabited, when that pharaoh died, it would inhabit the next pharaoh, right?
Transitive
so kind of,
meditational spirits.
I guess that's the divine merging with the mortal.
What if that's actually how it happens in like a fantasy campaign?
What's that?
Well, you got like okay, we'll go with like a dwarf for this case. In which case, like the dwarf lord, whenever he dies, his son winds up, like getting possessed by the spirit. And so it just keeps on going on, and so you have like this lineage of dwarves that's just effectively one spirit dwarf taking over a new body time as he goes down the generation. It would get pretty awkward being in the body of your kid, but having all the memories of what happened with your wife to help cause the kid.
Yeah,
that's kind of weird.
I wouldn't be surprised if you looked through fiction and found that somewhere in fantasy fiction, if you found some example of that, because that's also in history. The Buddha is described that way too. The Dalai Lama is supposed to be.
Isn't that a little bit different, where like they wind up in like being reborn? In which case it's a recurring soul, as opposed to okay, now I'm going to take my spirit of my Buddha spirit and possess this fully grown person here, and blah. Now I'm so and so Buddha.
I guess, yeah.
Do they do that? Is that a thing that actually happens? Is that how it goes, or is it more like a reincarnation thing?
I think more often it's sort of a reincarnation, and they sort of justify it after the fact.
My knowledge is a little rusty in that, so I just wanted to make sure I was coming from the right perspective.
They're like, oh, we found this child who was born around the time when the old child, or when the old emperor or Buddha or Lama died. So we're going to say he's declared that he's the reincarnation and raise him up in a monastery to be the guy.
But here's the thing about my concept of the Dalai Lama. I think it's could have been better. The concept of having this wonderfully spiritually enlightened master who's come back time and again throughout the lives, and this is the most wise person in all existence. That's good. But you know what's even better? Saying that anybody properly trained can become the wisest person on earth. All we have to do is take a kid and raise him the right way, and he will become the most enlightened mind on the planet.
Yeah, I like that way of looking at it. Yeah.
That's just my perspective. I'm always big on the belief of rising up and becoming better than yourself, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I see the importance of reincarnation, but I still think you could get like a more epic feel. It's like anybody can be this awesome and wise if you try and you put your mind into it the right way. It's like, whoa, I could be that guy. I gotta wise up, man. So there is that.
I mean, and I suppose in another way, like marriage is supposed to be something like that. When a man and a woman, or so sort of back to ancient times, biblical marriage, to talk about that. That's sort of a merging or a unification of two persons. It wasn't as always an
equal merging, though, I will note.
But that's true.
Could I relate a personal anecdote?
Oh, okay.
In that I knew my wife was the one for me before she was my wife, when we split a complete roast chicken, and we didn't have to argue or figure out who got which piece. And so that's when I realized it's not so much a fusion, it's just like we're like two puzzle pieces that match perfectly.
Okay, yeah.
And that's when we become greater together as one.
Yeah.
And as things like that because I mean that's what really just flipped my notion of marriage around. Because like when I first met the lady who became my wife, I was not planning on ever getting married, and I actually told her as such. I don't have any plans for marriage in my future. But then I realized it's not about the fusion sort of thing of like two becoming one. It's the complementary attitude where like the bits and pieces become whole that way.
Yeah. Okay. I think that makes sense too.
I gave up
modern
to become one with my wife.
Way.
I only gained more, and she only gained more, and we both became more from that.
Yeah, and that's true, because over history, it hasn't always been like one way or another of viewing marriage. Sometimes it's viewed just as sort of a property transaction.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's more of a contract, or a contract between the parents.
Politics.
It's like the parents are making some kind of alliance, and like the kids are just...
him and his, was it 1,000 wives?
Yeah.
There's a reason why he is in 0.5% of the world's DNA.
And I like the fact
that a lot of wives.
In a modern society, it's a little less romantic, but it's almost like a business partnership. It's like, okay, we're going to do things
Our
like share
synergies maximize
finances,
each other so well.
and we're going to maximize. Like we're going to have a house together so we can save money and save taxes and all these things. We're going to share time to raise kids, and we'll work out our schedules and stuff like that. So it's all this. It's sort of like running a business. It's a family, but I mean,
in some sense, it kind of has to be, whether or not you want it to or not.
That's true. Yeah, but that is appealing to me as unromantic as it sounds. It's kind of appealing to me that you can have that sort of we're going to do it together and we're going to both put in effort and get a mutually beneficial outcome.
Well, I suppose you could say that for any relationship.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, hold on, maybe isn't that the most ultimate sense, to try and get somebody to be more social? The more friends you have, good, true friends, the more you can do, the better you are. And it's not just like networking ability. Mm-hmm. It's that they wind up complimenting you in such a way that they help, I guess, round up your fractions of your personality into a whole that can manifest.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Dude,
that's important.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know how.
All sorts of family can state that. I mean, like me and my brother Adam. I mean, we were like together all through university because it's a lot cheaper to feed two people than it is to feed one person. Twice.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you share a lot of bills and things.
Yeah.
Efficiency.
But it's also because we're bros. It's always nice to know you got someone there who's got your back.
Yep.
Which is weird, because fusion, you don't actually have that. Because, in the concept of, like, two people becoming one, you can't be in two places at once. And so in which case, a fusion is inferior to a marriage. Because the one person could be getting groceries in a marriage, while the other person picks up the kids, or he takes them to practice or whatever, and that way they can do two things at once. Whereas the concept of the fusion, you've got two people that can only do one thing at a time.
Yeah, it's more of a limitation or a restriction than a benefit.
Like if you got the power to just bust through whatever you want, I mean, that's pretty powerful, but you can only bust through one thing at a time.
And I guess this is also why we have examples of possession, and it seems like often there's a conflict if you get inhabited by a different spirit or another person of some entity or demon or whatever. But then, you kind of fight with wills as to, like, over the control of this asset of a body and physical.
It's like fighting over who gets
reality.
to use the car.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's a bit weird when there's.
So then there could be people that are possessed, but they're so intrinsically aligned with the spirit themselves. It's always just like, that was a little unlike me. I don't know why I decided to go that way, but whatever.
Could be, yeah.
Whoa, subliminal possessions.
Yeah.
Dig it. Or remind you, there's always something to be said, about for the spirits or thing. Because, did you remember seeing the second, Grudge movie? Or no, not Grudge, the second Ring movie?
I didn't see that one.
Oh.
No.
Spoiler alert, I felt bad for Samara. Because it goes into more of her history and all that thing. And I guess, from what I interpret it, she is an otherworldly entity that comes from beyond the the mortal world. And she wound up possessing it. And things didn't go so well for her. She was not well loved or taken care of or anything like that. Kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
And what she wanted to wind up doing was possessing the lady's kid. And using that body as a host. And I'm thinking, you know what? You're a bit of a single lady. You got a kid, but you've got this guy here in the movie that's really into you, and you've got a spirit that wants a body. Can you see where I'm going with this? Could she just get knocked up by the guy who's really digging her, and then wind up, hey, why don't, and instead of taking my son, you take this unborn child, and I will raise you. Just don't be crazy, supernatural, possessive, and psycho, and I will raise you as a loving parent. Because that's what I saw when I watched the movie. Maybe I guess I'm a really parental sort of guy, but it's couldn't you get the best out of both worlds? This horrible Samara winds up getting a chance to reform and getting a body, a fresh body.
Yeah.
And the son does not get possessed. The guy who's into you gets a little action. And you wind up, effectively being the mother to, the reformed, creature that would wind up destroying all reality otherwise.
Well, then you wouldn't have a very interesting movie, would you?
I think the concept of trying to raise was effectively Rosemary's Baby to be very interesting myself.
Maybe, yeah, it'd be a different...
I would definitely have seen it as a brilliant twist ending as opposed to just trying to banish the evil spirit.
Yeah.
It's like, no, we'll sit down at the table. You're possessing my son. I don't want that. But I am capable of producing new bodies. So let's just work with that as a potential for you. There's going to be some ground rules. No possessions. No doing weird stuff. No killing the animals. No causing people to go crazy. I'll love you. I'll take care of you. And there we go.
I can see some people having ethical objections to creating a new baby just for the purpose of giving its body over to a different soul.
Is it any worse or better than taking over a pre-existing soul that's had time to develop?
Well,
the soul's.
No, I mean,
the soul's. See, Samara doesn't even possess a kid until a week after birth. Sort of thing.
Yeah.
So that's a soul that's like a week old after birth, or 9 months and a week old, depending how you want to look at it. I'm not going to get into that argument here and now.
Okay.
But that's still less than a year's worth of experience. Either which way you factor those numbers, as opposed to her 10-year-old son.
Yeah. No. Personally, I think I would agree with you. I would go with your plan. Me.
I wouldn't say that's a great option. I will say it is the least worst option for everybody involved, including the otherwise villain Samara.
But I'm just imagining that some people would say, no, there's an absolute prohibition. You're not allowed to usurp even as young as a week old. That's not allowed. And some people even before, but that they have their own issues. But even before being born, they're like, nope, cannot do it. But I mean, other people. That's why
I'm so sorry. My fictional ghost lady is not following your religious doctrines.
Yeah, I mean that's why we call it pro-choice, because it's sort of the person who's carrying the child gets to choose if they get possessed by an evil spirit from beyond the universe. And
that's the thing, though. I mean, am I outside of the Star Trek universe, has nobody in any fictional world ever heard of the rule of first contact, where you try and make it as peaceful as possible? Isn't this a good way to help, forge a positive alliance between humanity and the forces that exist beyond the veil?
Like I'm saying, I'm voting your way. Yeah. Although I'm also saying that there's that whole.
They don't have to know about it. Samara can just keep quiet about it in the new kid's body. Yeah. He's just a little bit of a creepy child.
Yeah.
Which could be, I think, heavily mitigated by a loving mother. And I suppose if things go off well with her and the guy who likes her, maybe she gets a father that way too. Full family, woo! If not, still mother, raising a very special kid. There you go.
Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah. So in which case, how are we going to wind up putting possession in the fusion category? Because it's not exactly a physical-on-physical combination,
right?
But it is very much of the same essence, where you get the skills and abilities.
I think it just fits right in alongside the other versions that we've sort of talked about.
So would you be able to or in this case for the argument, instead of Samara possessing the baby or unborn body? What if they were just able to make some sort of deal and get some sort of more equal ownership of the body instead of full direct possession? It's like, okay, Samara, you gotta play nice with my son. No causing crazies. No causing psychic feedbacks. No breaking the laws of physics. But if it's okay with my son, the two of you can inhabit.
I guess,
play fair.
You give him a choice in the matter, and
that's the thing. The kid was pretty young. I don't know if he's able to make the informed consent rules on something which I think would be definitely necessary.
Yeah, and in another way, as long as it's not necessarily going to harm him, maybe that's not the worst thing to put him through.
Doesn't
in fact, could be
having the best for their child.
An imaginary friend
or
something.
If I give my child unimaginable psychic powers, I would definitely consider it. Although I won't lie, my daughter's not even 3 years old yet. The concept of unimaginable psychic powers in a 3-year-old don't seem like a good combo. I've watched the Twilight Zone. I know how things go. I'm going to wind up in the cornfield at some point. So no. Although, hey, look, there's this mitigating spirit with a lot more experience than you. There we go.
Yeah, if the spirit's kind of ancient and wise, okay, yeah.
So, Samara's a spirit from beyond the veil. I suppose that automatically at least equals ancient.
Yeah.
By the way, according to her, what exists beyond the world is a lot like water. dark, lightless water. So take from that what you will.
Yeah.
A little factoid, right?
And I mean, yeah, we mentioned things like the spirit of the Buddha or the spirits of pharaohs, like inhabiting younger versions of pharaohs, and that seems to be relatively beneficial.
Especially when you're ruling a nation, which, I don't know, I suppose if you got unimaginable psychic powers, it's going to wind up happening at some point. You're going to at least have a cult following you.
Yeah.
So, you might as well have a good cult, right?
Another example from Star Trek is the Dax symbiote.
Yes, that was a very good notion there, Josh. Thanks for bringing that one up. Because that's an interesting fusion in that way. That really does have a much more equal balance going on there. And not just that, but because the Dax symbiote, or I guess all those symbiotes there, accumulate not just like two people, but it winds up like the longer it goes, the more it adds up.
Yeah, it's so like generations worth.
You've got like so many extra like people like she refers to the the Captain Sisko refers to Dax as old man.
Yeah,
because he knew the previous symbiote as the old man, and so they have that. And it says, hey, congratulations, you can still maintain those relationships even after the host is dead. You still have all those memories, and so that's pretty groovy, man.
Yeah.
Would you be digging that? Is that your preferential symbiosis going on there? Your fusion style?
Actually, what I like about the symbiote is that they have their own culture built around it already. Because it'd be a bit difficult to introduce that to human culture.
It's just an alien popping in, all of a sudden it latches into the basal cortex of your brain and all that.
That'd be a little bit scary and weird. But the fact is that these people sort of co-evolved, right, with the symbiotes, and they've developed this
culture and I guess almost religion.
They kind of have ritualized.
It was more of a religion back then, and now it's a bit more of just a culture style.
Yeah, and I guess like Stargate had virtually the same idea, only they were evil and they took over the body basically. It's more of the possession type thing.
Very interesting concept. So, how much fan fiction between the two?
Oh yeah,
symbiotes versus Goa'uld.
Yeah, I don't know.
Dig it.
Mind
you, the Goa'uld do have the extra technology, so they can maintain the one host longer. They can do, the human body's pretty easy to regenerate for them.
Oh yeah, Star Trek. So, well, people in the Star Trek universe live 150 something like that.
They're pretty good at that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's still not the centuries-long sort of thing, oh yes, I've ruled this thing for a half millennia.
Mm-hmm.
My body still looks like a 14-year-old. So, I mean, that's a nice thing there.
Yeah.
Would you give up some of your freedom to have that longevity and, the youthfulness?
If it was a beneficial symbiote, I actually might do that. It'd be a bit icky. I think what I would want, what my preference would be to live most of my human life as just, a human, as me, because I like my individuality and autonomy. I don't really want to have another voice in my head. I have enough as it is, which is basically one most of the time.
But the thing is, don't forget, there's a healthy multiplicity, where it's okay to have those other voices so long as they're just subparts of you reminding you, It's like that wagging finger, like the bow, the bow tied around your finger to remind you of something, right?
Yeah.
That's what that voice is. It's not really a separate voice. It's just a sub-voice of you.
Yeah, or just the fact that I don't actually have a smartphone, but that if I get a smartphone, it's you have Siri reminding you of things.
Well, you could always upgrade to Windows 10 and get yourself Cortana.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, my preference would be I'd say just thinking about it now, I might if I thought about it more I might have a different idea, but it's sort of when I get to 80 or 90 years old, be okay, then I'll take the symbiote for the extra
What if the other one starts as a blank sort of thing, it's completely empty, and then it winds up trying to copy you until at such point when you are 80 you detach from it and you wind up dying, but you still live because it's copied you well enough to effectively mimic you to the point of being you.
I might. Yeah, I'd do that. Sure. That sounds.
It's kind of a different one. It's more of a fission than a fusion.
Yeah, but I think I'd go for that. Yeah, I'd be sign me up.
Because I gotta say, like, I'd be pretty cool with the concept of like a Dax symbiote sort of thing going on there, even if it wasn't quite so benevolent. Because let's face it, reality intrudes, sort of thing. People got urges and needs, and I suppose symbiotes got desires to work too. It's like, dude, I really want to get back on this project I kind of left hanging about 40 years ago. It happens. That said, I couldn't do it without at least full agreement from my wife. I'm a married man. My body is not completely my own. So there's that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and I guess the other thing is like how interested in immortality are we really when we have...
I'm less interested now than I used to be. I do want some longevity. I do want to see the wonderful life I am hoping for my daughter.
Yeah, we have a functioning society that seems to work okay with people dying, in their 80s. We don't like when people die early.
We should be doing better stuff than the current graveyard system, though. That's eating up a lot of space.
Well, yeah, some people are. Some people do, like, body liquefaction or cremation or stuff like that.
Well, I think ashes are pretty good for most cases.
Yeah,
Scatter it out, make sure you're not impacting the ecosystem too much.
Yeah, but I mean...
Or maybe it's orchards, you just like bury yourself in a certain area and you get the tree to grow up so the fruit happens.
Yeah. Or do you remember Futurama has the orbital graveyard?
Yes.
I think
that's only for the big and important people.
I guess so, yeah.
Now if anybody asks if I don't have Charlemagne's bones, I can say no. Yeah, they put up a lot of the old special people that way. So, I've been leading this up one with the computer stuff. What about the ultimate fusion, where you connect to like the hive mind or the digital consciousness?
Yeah, like the Borg.
Something like that, yeah. How about that as a fusion? Can we consider that one where you fuse with something greater than yourself? Because I've been told there's some very deep spiritual connections with that, and that if you're truly a religious person, you wind up fusing with the spirit and the essence of God, and you wind up becoming through His will sort of thing. And I don't completely buy that, because I do like the free will aspect I was bestowed upon, apparently.
Yeah.
The sanctity of free agency is kind of rocking.
Well, yeah, I actually wonder if maybe, just sort of philosophically, hypothetically speaking, it might actually be a great benefit to be sort of detached from other entities. Like just the fact that we're sort of autonomous allows us to do things that we might not be able to do if we are all part of one hive mind. And if that autonomy isn't what actually grants us a lot of what makes us human, it probably does. But
can we work on semi-autonomy so that we're all fairly free, but we still know who did that damn thing to the bathroom down the hall, and you sick person?
Well, that's like, I guess, the idea of the surveillance state. Like, imagine if instead of like being a one consciousness, it's just we all have cell phones that track each other. Like there's a network that tracks where other people are. So if we want to find out,
could I get some verification that it was only computers monitoring me? Because I'd be okay being more monitored if it was non-human intelligence watching me.
Would you? Okay. Well,
if it's just just like a computer watching the bathroom, I'm fine with going in the bathroom. I'm fine with a little bit of lack of privacy. If it's something that doesn't care or could potentially get some sort of weird, perverted, kinky fetish off on watching me, I'm okay with that. That is one of my biggest issues about always being monitored, is who's making what use of the data. So if it's a computer, I've got a little bit more trust than vast swaths of humanity and commerce.
Well, I have trouble even imagining what anybody could get out of watching somebody like me in the bathroom, because
anything that you are and everything that you do is a fetish to someone.
Yeah.
The internet has taught me that.
But also the other thing about the internet is if you can think of it, somebody's already done it. So if they really want to find bathroom stuff, they'll
find somebody who's doing it better than you, Josh.
Yeah, that's something that's already on the internet somewhere.
This Josh guy's all right, but I really want to see somebody with a six-pack and maybe some sweet arm tats.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not that interesting.
Oh, fair enough, then.
Or, I don't know.
Mind you, that also works as a weird allegory for humanity and God, right?
What's that? How?
It's, like we might be interesting. Someone might be intrigued in you. Mm-hmm. But with enough power, there's going to be someone more interesting somewhere else.
Yeah.
There's going to be that dude with the sweet six-pack abs and tats that this weird, crazy fetishist wants to view instead of you.
Yeah.
So if there's a God, what are the chances that we're that interesting? What are we the guy with the sweet arm tats doing it? I don't know.
Yeah, the most interesting man in the world, like
everyone else is not worthy of paying attention to.
It's like God and all the angels are like all watching him.
This dude is so fascinating. I can't believe he did that. Boah.
And they're like, that's why nobody's prayers are getting answered.
You're not interesting enough. What's that for a new subsect of Christianity? In order to get your prayers actively answered, you have to be interesting enough for God to pay attention to you. So you got to go out there and be the most interesting person possible.
Probably means you have to sin a lot too. Probably.
Kinda, yeah. Sins are always more entertaining, or well, at least from our perspective. Maybe not for God. Maybe God gets really interested in like, oh my God, did you see the humility on that guy?
Yeah, right.
Such
probably.
piety. Oh my me. That's just wow.
Yeah.
So I think, I hate to say it, but I think we just only barely scratched the surface of the types of fusions and combinations you can put with two essences.
Oh, yeah. I had one thing that I wanted to bring up, but it might be a tangent, but hopefully it'll be quick.
I mean, that's kind of like our alternative nickname.
But it's that I've been, as I do like writing, and I've been creating television scripts, like scripts for television and podcasts, and like scripted, like a radio play type podcast, or basically that kind of thing. So scripted television with multiple characters, sort of almost like ensemble cast idea. And as I write, my character synopses, when you write a character, you're like, okay, who are they? Like, where are they from? Where did they grow up? Did they move? Did they have brothers and sisters? Their parents? Are they married? All these like checking boxes and stuff. Building a character
to make them seem like a real person.
Yeah, and this is what you do for sort of modern, like either filmmaking or television. You're making your characters. This is who I'm putting on the screen for people to watch. Okay, so and you do that like once for each character. It's like, okay, I have 10 of these fairly fleshed out, sort of main character guys for my script, and then what I do after that is almost as much writing for each space between each set of two characters, each pairing, as you do almost as much writing as like what is their relationship like, what do they think of that other person like, and I find that those are almost characters unto themselves. Like each each pairing is almost another character.
A fusion character in that case. So yeah, you're going back to your like marriages and your relationships are a fusion to some degree.
Yeah, and then what that does also is that basically that's where storylines will come from. Because when you tell like one character, it's like, okay, they have all this background, and then okay, throw them up on the page, like scene 1. And then you have the character stands there, and okay, now let's watch them do something. And it's like, okay, we know all this stuff about the background, but then there's no, that you can get somewhere with that. But the next
the soul coming in,
that
motivates, yeah.
But if you take like one pairing, like your favorite pairing or any pairing and you throw that in scene 1, okay, now I have this pairing, and what's going to happen immediately? I feel like something's going to spark. Something's going to happen with your scene 1. Like those two characters there's going to be something. They're going to interact in some way. One will want something. One will want a different thing. Yeah. So. Or
they'll be splitting hairs about what they want because they're just so close but so far apart. They have to split that one hair to figure out the difference.
Yeah. So that's a little thing about how I'm writing and learning to write and.
It's a very interesting style.
Yeah.
I'm digging that. And seems a lot of work, but dig it.
Yeah. Hopefully it'll pay off. We'll see if I write something brilliant. We'll see if
nothing else, it's always good practice, right?
Actually, it's definitely okay.
Yes. How can people get a hold of us, Josh?
Oh, we should do social media. TheSimulationist@gmail.com is our email address. That's TheSimulationist@gmail.com.
All one word, no underscores?
And you can send us messages of any length on there. If you have a shorter message you want to send, you can comment on our YouTube page, youtube.com/TheSimulationist.
Even shorter than that, I suppose they could just, get a hold of you on Twitter.
My Twitter handle is @Spaceboot1. That's space with the numeral 1, SpaceBoot1. I also tweet about comedy and my comedy podcast, Spaceboat1, which I've been working on also,
nice.
And various other appearances around Victoria, like comedy, doing stuff, which I'll I'll
He'll
talk
let you
about.
know through that stuff, you know?
Let you know through that podcast and through my Twitter. You don't have Twitter though, right?
Not yet.
Okay.
I am still looking in on it. I'm peeking in, but I don't have anything to anchor me, like my own Twitter.
Yeah. There's also the Facebook page. You can like our Facebook page, facebook.com/thesimulationist. I believe you can comment there on this episode or previous episodes. And what else? If you find us on iTunes or Stitcher for that matter, they have like little reviews that you can write. We would super appreciate if you wrote anything at all in those little boxes. 1 star, 5 stars. Can't imagine you get this far only giving us 1 star, but however many think
Some
we
people
need.
are gluttons for punishment. If we ain't your thing, but you listen to us the entire way, good on you, buddy.
Maybe somebody somewhere is like torturing people with, you have to listen to these nerds talk about nerd stuff for 90 minutes now.
No, the esoterics of fusions are not even being covered in here. Oh my god.
And we'll play it in slow motion.
I think my voice is better a little slower, honestly. That doesn't hurt. That only helps.
It might, yeah.
On the other hand, you speed us up to twice the speed, you get more efficiency, and we wind up sounding like chipmunks.
Yeah. I actually, I edit this show at 1.6 times the speed, so it's not quite twice the speed. But I actually find myself, thinking we're a lot more clever, and then we slow down again, the way I'm talking now. It's
He's not clever, he's just a little slow.
I'm like, ugh, it sounds so, molasses and crawling through the top. But it's just, I don't know.
That's because you're used to the higher speed.
Yeah, I get used to the higher speed. Which it'll be funny, because now I'm basically talking to my future self editing the podcast. I'm like, hey, yeah.
Dude, this voice is talking to me, man. It's the voice of me from the past speaking.
Yeah. Okay.
I got one thing to pose to you.
Okay.
D&D campaign, where instead of playing regular characters, you each play a symbiote. And thus, whenever your character dies, you have to get, a new body host to put that on.
Yeah, sure.
So instead of this expensive reincarnation stuff, you just find another willing, applicant for this thing. In which case, your body winds up becoming about the same as like a equipment. It's like, oh, I got to get this one. I mean, look at his physical stats on this. This is good stuff.
Yeah.
Winds up that a person can't make it to the table. Well, you just put 2 symbiotes into the one host body and just play as Gestalt, baby.
Yeah.
Would you dig a campaign where instead of playing a character, you play like a symbiotic creature, some sort of weird, maybe not necessarily evil aberration?
That would be fun for a while. Yeah.
Okay, I'll see what I can do for looking up that sort of stuff and see if there's anything like it.
I did. I also had the thought that maybe you could almost do on a meta level. I think we talked about this actually before
the symbiote
podcast.
is effectively you in this case, right?
Yeah,
not the character.
But in some ways, you could just, if somebody didn't show it, you could sort of hand wave and say, nobody in the world sort of sees that anything different happened, but suddenly 2 characters are combined into 1 character. Because we, as writers, we sometimes do this in stories. Like when you're editing a story, you're like, oh, I don't really need both of those characters. They can be 1 character, simplify, right?
I've been told the person who became Freddy in the Scooby-Doo series was originally 2 people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we talked about this in the Pixar
so we don't need that. Just slam them together. And people still say Freddy's a fairly dull character. So could you imagine half of Freddy for a character?
Yeah. Well, the point I made before was that the Venture Brothers are 2. They didn't need to be 2 characters.
I think they did need to play off each other for the subtle differences.
But imagine, though, if Fred had been 2 characters, I think the writers might have been forced to address that and to be like, hey, these guys are the same. If the decision was locked in stone to keep it as, 2 characters, maybe they've already made the first
2 regular
episode.
gals, 2 regular guys, and then you got your little beatnik and his dog.
Yeah, if that decision had already been made, then they would have to been forced in some other way to deal with this problem of having 2 very similar characters and say, well, how can they evolve into different, sort of personalities.
But none of them can go the way Shaggy is. They got to find some other way to venture away.
Yeah, which I think that would have happened, and who knows, if that would have been a better or worse cartoon. It's hard to say.
I think it was pretty darn good. I mean, they're still producing Scooby-Doo stuff to this day. That's been decades of work. It's hard to argue it would have been even more successful than that.
Yeah.
And that said, it's always harder to write a bigger cast, so maybe shorten it down a little bit. It was a good idea.
I suppose it might be interesting though, just to have.
Of course, I feel a little sorry for poor Velma. She winds up now always getting paired off with Shaggy, when it's like, dude, they could have had like 2 Freds. Each gal could have had a Fred, man. Sorry, Velma. You got to stick with the beatnik for the rest of eternity now.
Well. Gosh. What's wrong with the beat? I guess he's not that interested in girls. That's the problem. He's not. He likes them as friends, and he's loyal, and he will help them.
The latest series, he really did like Velma and all that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, okay.
But there were conflicts between his personality and hers, and it was kind of hard to have a deep romantic relationship with the comedic relief.
Okay. So, well, yeah. There's the thing of like he's a bit lazy, and he's a teenager. He likes food and stuff like that.
So a little hard to work that with. This is a romantic sort of thing. Not that Freddy was very deep in that series either. He's big on traps. So
Yeah. Well, they're kids in this. Like they're not going to be the best romantic partners. They have stuff to learn about life and that.
Fair enough. Okay, I'll grant you that. But yes, so okay. Note to self: come up with a symbiote that works with D&D, preferentially in 5th edition, to work as a player character.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Future Ryan, do this now.
I guess we're out of time. So
yeah. Well, I'm not going to start doing it right now while we're still recording. I'm just one guy, dude.
We're just throwing ideas at the wall.
Okay, so now that I've told my future self, I suppose we will see the rest of you in 7 days.
All right, I've been Josh Sherman.
I've been Ryan Kirkley.
Simon.